Let me introduce myself. My name is Adriana, and I work as a creative director at one of the most prestigious advertising agencies in New York City. For the past 5 years, I've poured my heart and soul into this company, crafting campaigns that have won awards and brought millions in revenue. But let me tell you, success in this cutthroat world doesn't come easy. It demands sacrifices that most people wouldn't understand. I remember the day everything changed like it was yesterday. It was supposed to be the pinnacle of my career, a campaign I'd been nurturing for months, one that would revolutionize how we approached digital marketing. The budget had been approved weeks ago by Michael, our newly appointed creative director. He was fresh from Silicon Valley, with an impressive resume and a reputation for being both brilliant and ruthless. We'd worked well together initially, but there was always something about his calculating eyes that made me uneasy. The project was my baby, a groundbreaking interactive experience that would blend augmented reality with social media in ways no one had attempted before. Our team had put in countless late nights, fueled by coffee and passion. The client was thrilled. The numbers added up perfectly and everything was set for launch. That's when Michael called me into his office on what should have been our final approval meeting. "Adriana," he began, leaning back in his expensive leather chair, "I've decided to reallocate your project's budget." His voice was calm, almost casual, as if he were discussing lunch options rather than destroying months of hard work. "We need to focus on more traditional approaches." I must have looked like I'd been punched in the gut. "Michael, we've already committed resources, signed contracts, and the client." "The client will understand," he interrupted, not even bothering to look at me directly. "These things happen in business. You'll find another project." He dismissed me with a wave of his hand, already turning his attention to his phone. Walking back to my office felt like moving through molasses. Each step weighed heavier than the last, carrying the burden of disappointment and frustration. My team sat waiting, their faces lighting up expectantly as they saw me approach. How could I tell them that their hard work, their sleepless nights, had been rendered meaningless by a single executive decision? This wasn't just about the project anymore. It was about respect, about recognition of talent and effort. In that moment, I realized something fundamental about Michael. He didn't see us as people with dreams and aspirations. We were merely cogs in his corporate machine, easily replaceable. And that realization sparked something inside me, a burning determination that refused to be extinguished. As I gathered my team to break the news, watching their faces fall one by one, I made a silent vow. Michael might hold the power now, but he had severely underestimated who he was dealing with. This wasn't over, not by a long shot. In the world of corporate politics, there are different kinds of power, and I was about to discover mine. The following days were a blur of forced smiles and strategic planning. I couldn't let my team see how deeply Michael's decision had affected me. Instead, I channeled my anger into observation, studying every move he made, every decision he announced in meetings. What I discovered was enlightening. Michael wasn't the marketing genius everyone believed him to be. His previous successes, mostly exaggerated or borrowed from others' work. His so-called innovative strategies, repackaged ideas from smaller agencies he'd acquired. I started documenting everything, every questionable decision, every instance where credit was stolen from junior team members, every time he took credit for someone else's work. At first, it was just notes in my phone during late-night commutes. But soon, I began building a comprehensive file. I learned to navigate the company's internal systems, accessing performance reviews and project documentation. Nothing illegal, just information that was technically available to senior staff, but rarely scrutinized. My assistant, Rachel, noticed the change in me. One evening, as we were the last ones in the office, she approached my desk. "Adriana, you've been different lately," she said, concern etched on her face. "Is everything okay?" I hesitated, then decided to trust her. "Rachel, do you know why Michael canceled my AR project?" She nodded. "What if I told you there's a way to make sure he can never do that to anyone again?" Her eyes widened, but instead of fear, I saw understanding. "I'm listening." Together, we became a silent, investigative team. Rachel had access to HR records and knew how to navigate the company's social circles. Through her, I learned about other projects Michael had sabotaged, other careers he'd derailed. We found patterns, teams he intentionally starved of resources, promising employees he pushed out when they threatened to outshine him. The breakthrough came when we discovered his email habits, not through hacking, but through careful analysis of CC messages and forwarded threads. Michael had a habit of bragging about his manipulations to his inner circle, believing his position made him untouchable. These digital breadcrumbs painted a picture of systematic abuse of power that would make any board member's blood boil. But gathering evidence was only half the battle. I needed allies, and not just within our department. I started reaching out to former colleagues from other branches, those who had left after working under Michael. Their stories matched ours, talented professionals driven away by his toxic management style. Some were hesitant to speak up, fearing repercussions to their current positions. But others, like Marcus from our Chicago office, were ready to help. Marcus had been Michael's right-hand man until he witnessed firsthand how Michael manipulated quarterly reports to secure his promotion. "I left because I couldn't stomach it anymore," he confessed during our secret meeting at a quiet coffee shop. "If you're serious about taking him down, count me in." With each new ally, my confidence grew. We weren't just fighting for revenge anymore. We were fighting for every creative professional who had ever been silenced or pushed aside by corporate greed. The pieces were falling into place, but I knew better than to rush. Michael had spent years building his empire of influence. Dismantling it would require precision, timing, and flawless execution. Every morning, I arrived at the office earlier than usual, using the quiet hours to refine our strategy. The data we had collected was extensive, but raw information alone wouldn't be enough. We needed to present our case in a way that would resonate with the board members, executives who spoke the language of profit margins and shareholder value. I began analyzing Michael's decisions through a financial lens. The canceled AR project? It represented not just a creative loss, but a potential $20 million in projected revenue. The talented designers he drove away, their replacements cost the company significantly more in training and recruitment fees. Each toxic decision had a dollar amount attached to it, and these numbers were mounting into a compelling business case. Rachel developed a sophisticated presentation system. Using the same augmented reality technology Michael had dismissed, we created an interactive report that would literally surround the board members with evidence of his mismanagement. Financial charts floated in mid-air, testimonials appeared as holographic projections, and project timelines showed exactly where and how things went wrong. But we needed more than just numbers and technology. We required emotional impact. I reached out to former team members, collecting personal stories of how Michael's actions had affected their lives and careers. These narratives, presented alongside the cold hard facts, would create a powerful narrative that even the most cynical board member couldn't ignore. The challenge was timing. We had to wait for the perfect moment to strike when Michael was most vulnerable. Corporate restructuring rumors provided our window. The board was already questioning several executive positions. Our plan needed to coincide with these discussions, ensuring maximum impact. During this period, I maintained a carefully crafted facade of professionalism around Michael. I attended his meetings, contributed ideas, and even praised some of his decisions. Each interaction was a dance of deception, maintaining his belief that I had accepted defeat while secretly orchestrating his downfall. The stress was immense, but every time I caught sight of my reflection in the office windows, I reminded myself why I was doing this. This wasn't just about revenge. It was about justice for every creative mind that had been crushed under the weight of corporate politics. As the weeks turned into months, my double life became increasingly complex. During the day, I played the role of the dedicated employee, nodding along to Michael's directives while carefully planting seeds of doubt among other executives. In private moments, I worked tirelessly with my growing network of allies, refining our strategy and preparing for the inevitable confrontation. One particular incident stands out in my memory. We were in the middle of a major pitch meeting with a potential client worth millions. Michael, true to form, was dominating the conversation, dismissing innovative ideas in favor of his safe, conventional approaches. As I watched him systematically dismantle our team's creative concepts, I felt a surge of that initial anger, the same fire that had ignited this whole journey. But instead of speaking out, I waited. I let him continue, noting which executives seemed uncomfortable with his dismissive attitude. After the meeting, I I casually mentioned to one of these executives how similar this situation felt to our lost AR project. It's interesting, I said, keeping my tone light, how many potentially groundbreaking ideas seem to get shelved these days. The seed was planted, and I moved on, knowing that these small conversations were gradually eroding Michael's support base. The emotional toll of this charade was heavier than I'd anticipated. Nights were the hardest. I'd lie awake, replaying every interaction, analyzing every word choice. Was I too obvious? Did I give anything away? The pressure manifested in unexpected ways. Sudden headaches during meetings, moments of blankness when asked simple questions. I started yoga classes before work, finding solace in the quiet movements and deep breathing exercises. Rachel became more than just an assistant. She was my anchor in this storm. We developed a system of subtle signals. A certain way of arranging pens on my desk meant urgent development, while a specific brand of coffee cup indicated safe to talk. These small rituals gave me a sense of control in an otherwise chaotic situation. Our network expanded beyond what I'd initially imagined. Marcus introduced us to contacts in other departments who had their own grievances with Michael's management style. The IT department shared how he consistently blocked necessary upgrades, preferring to maintain outdated systems that favored his traditional approaches. The finance team revealed how he manipulated budget allocations to ensure his pet projects received funding while starving others. Each revelation added another layer to our case, but also increased the complexity of our operation. We had to coordinate multiple narratives, ensuring that our various allies presented their information at optimal times without appearing coordinated. The risk of discovery grew with each new piece of the puzzle. Yet, through it all, I found an unexpected strength. The anger that had initially driven me transformed into something more profound, a determination to create real change. This wasn't just about bringing down one bad manager. It was about demonstrating that creativity and innovation deserve protection in corporate environments. Every late night, every stressful encounter, every moment of self-doubt was fuel for this larger purpose. As I prepared for the next phase of our plan, I realized something important. The person I was becoming, strategic, resilient, determined, was someone I could be proud of. The corporate world had tried to crush my spirit, but instead, it had forged me into something stronger. Whatever happened next, I knew I would face it with courage and conviction. The day finally arrived when everything we had been building toward seemed to align perfectly. Michael had scheduled a major presentation to the board, showcasing his latest innovative campaign, a rehash of ideas he'd stolen from junior staff, repackaged with expensive production values. I watched from my office as he rehearsed, oblivious to the storm brewing beneath his feet. That morning, I received confirmation from 3 separate sources within the company. They had seen our evidence, understood the pattern of destruction Michael had wrought, and were ready to act. The board members had been quietly reviewing our meticulously prepared dossier, cross-referencing it with their own observations. Yet despite this promising alignment of forces, I knew we were still walking a razor's edge. Michael's presentation loomed large, but I couldn't shake the feeling that something was missing. All our evidence pointed to a pattern of destructive behavior, but we lacked the smoking gun, the one undeniable piece of proof that would make the board take immediate action. I spent hours poring over our files, searching for connections we might have missed, patterns that hadn't yet emerged. Then I noticed something peculiar. Several of the projects Michael had canceled had mysteriously resurfaced in competitor agencies, executed almost exactly as originally conceived, except now they bore Michael's fingerprints. It wasn't just about killing innovation at our company. He was actively selling our ideas to rivals for personal gain. The realization hit me like a thunderclap. This was bigger than corporate sabotage. This was industrial espionage. I immediately contacted Rachel and Marcus. We needed to verify this new theory without alerting Michael. The challenge was immense. We had mere hours before his presentation, and proving such allegations would require accessing highly sensitive information. Worse still, I noticed Michael's behavior changing subtly throughout the day. He seemed more watchful, his eyes lingering longer on our interactions. Had he sensed something? The tension in the office became palpable. Team members reported feeling unusually scrutinized, their emails and documents being accessed without clear reason. Our carefully constructed network of allies suddenly felt exposed, each connection a potential vulnerability. Yet, amidst this growing danger, something remarkable happened. Our group coalesced even tighter. People who had previously kept their distance started volunteering information, sharing their own experiences of Michael's misconduct. As the clock ticked closer to the presentation time, I faced an impossible decision. Should we strike now with our current evidence, risking exposure of our entire operation? Or should we attempt to gather definitive proof of the industrial espionage, knowing it might take days or even weeks to confirm? Each option carried unacceptable risks. Exposing our operation could lead to professional ruin, while waiting might allow Michael to cover his tracks completely. In the midst of this crisis, an unexpected opportunity emerged. One of our junior developers, who had been working late on an unrelated project, accidentally uncovered something extraordinary in the company's server logs. Patterns of data transfer that shouldn't exist, timestamps that didn't add up, and encrypted files bearing Michael's signature digital markers. It was exactly what we needed, but extracting and decoding this information would require time we didn't have. I made the call. Rachel, get everyone together. We need to move now. My voice was steady, but inside, my heart was pounding like a drum. The junior developer, his name was Ethan, had given us the smoking gun, and though it wasn't fully decoded, it was enough. Enough to make Michael sweat, enough to force the board's hand. We gathered in the small conference room on the 7th floor, the one no one ever used because the air conditioning was always broken. Marcus, Rachel, Ethan, and a few other trusted allies crowded around the table as I laid out the plan. It was risky, unorthodox, and utterly insane, but sometimes insanity is what it takes to win. Here's the play, I said, pulling up the encrypted files on the screen. Ethan, you're going to send this data directly to the board members' tablets during Michael's presentation. Not all at once. Drip it out, piece by piece, so they can't ignore it. Marcus, you'll be ready with the financial impact analysis we've prepared. Rachel, you'll handle the personal testimonies from affected employees. And me? I'm walking into that presentation room. The group stared at me, their eyes wide with disbelief. You're doing what? Rachel hissed. Adriana, if he sees you. He won't see me coming, I interrupted. This isn't just about evidence anymore. This is about showing him that he can't crush people without consequences. Trust me. Michael's presentation began exactly as expected. Slick slides, overconfident rhetoric, and stolen ideas presented as his own genius. He stood at the front of the boardroom, basking in the glow of the projector like he owned the world. For a moment, I almost felt sorry for him. Almost. I slipped into the back of the room unnoticed, just as Ethan started feeding the first batch of encrypted files to the board members' tablets. At first, there were subtle frowns, confusion rippling across faces as they opened documents labeled with timestamps and metadata linking them to Michael. Then came the whispers, the exchanged glances, the growing unease. By the time Michael reached his grand finale, a flashy video montage of his supposed achievements, the room had shifted. One board member cleared her throat loudly. Another tapped their pen against the table, a sharp, impatient sound that cut through the air. Michael froze mid-sentence, sensing something was wrong. Is there an issue? He asked, his voice tight. That's when I stepped forward. Every eye turned to me, but I didn't flinch. Actually, yes, I said, my tone calm but cutting. There seems to be some discrepancies in your report. Care to explain why certain projects you claimed failed here ended up succeeding spectacularly at our competitors? Or how about those encrypted files currently appearing on everyone's tablets? Michael's face went white. For the first time since I'd met him, he looked genuinely afraid. This is ridiculous, he stammered. Clearly, someone has tampered with. Oh, save it, I interrupted, letting my anger finally show. You thought you could destroy careers, steal ideas, and sell them off for profit without anyone noticing? You underestimated us. All of us. The board erupted into chaos, demanding answers, while Michael stumbled over weak denials. But the damage was done. Over the next hour, Marcus presented the financial losses caused by Michael's decisions. Rachel shared heartfelt testimonials from former employees, and Ethan revealed the full scope of the data breach. By the end of it, Michael wasn't just finished, he was ruined. Weeks later, I stood in the same boardroom, But this time the atmosphere was different. Light streamed through the windows, and the air buzzed with energy. The board had appointed me interim creative director, pending a formal review. My AR project had been reinstated, and the team was already working on bringing it to life. As I looked around the room at the faces of my colleagues, people who had stood by me, believed in me, and fought alongside me, I felt something I hadn't felt in years. Hope. Hope that maybe, just maybe, the corporate world wasn't as soulless as I'd thought. That creativity and integrity could still find a way to thrive. And as for Michael, let's just say he learned the hard way that revenge doesn't have to be loud or flashy to be satisfying. Sometimes justice is its own reward.